Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The program will begin in 10 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The program will begin in 5 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, please silence all mobile devices. The program is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The program is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage TechCrunch Editor-in-Chief, Matthew Panzarino.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of TechCrunch Disrupt SF 2018. We had an excellent day yesterday. The crowd was all the way to the back for a lot of panels on both this stage and the next stage, which was very encouraging. It's been a long time programming this, so it's always gratifying to see that you're enjoying it. Today, we also have an amazing, amazing day. We're going to start off, BMW is going to launch something. It's a worldwide exclusive. You're going to see it here first. We also have a conversation with Ben Horowitz later from Andreessen Horowitz, and then a conversation with Doug Leone from Sequoia, so 2 of the top investors in the world. Priscilla Chan will talk to us about what they're doing at Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. We're also going to talk to Whitney Wolfhard from Bumble. We're going to talk to Steve Case and Reid Hoffman. So a lot of great conversations that are going to happen. And then, of course, Dara Khosrowshahi from Uber is going to be here to talk about the current state of Uber and how it's come over the last year that he's been in charge there. We're also going to talk to Alex Stamos, the former security officer of Facebook, who's going to talk to us about the current state of affairs. It's going to be a very, very compelling and interesting conversation, so stick around for that. And then, of course, later on in the day, we have our battlefield. We had our first session yesterday at some excellent companies. The judges were very impressed with the quality, which is, once again, always nice to see because we work hard to pick great companies. And then today, we're going to see a new batch of companies, and they're also going to have a chance to make it into the finals tomorrow. So stick around for that battlefield. It's always a hit with the audience. So thank you very much for being here so early. We'll kick it right off, and I'll see you guys later.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage TechCrunch editor and Disrupt MC, Jordan Crook.
Oh, yes, I love that. I think that was Anthony. Cool, one of my coworkers. Spread the love, Anthony. We're going to get enthusiastic as the day goes on, but I know that it's early for everyone, so just drink up your coffee and get warm. We have an amazing day in store, as Panzer said, so I'm just going to kick it right off. But housekeeping. As you probably remember, because I said it like 4 or 5 times yesterday, otter.ai. You can check out the transcripts from all of these chats. So just go on, use the code TechCrunch, and we will be using the hashtag TCDisrupt today on social media. So check in on that if you want to be a part of the conversation. And with that, let's get the show on the road. I'd like a warm welcome from you guys for our next guest. Please welcome to the stage from BMW, Dieter May, and your moderator, Frederic Lardinois. Big round of applause.
Good morning. Morning, Dieter. Morning. You came all the way from Germany. You must be tired.
Yeah, a bit jet-lagged, but it's fine, I think. Too excited for what is going to come now.
All right, very good. We're excited too. Over the last few years, BMW has put a real focus on connectivity in its cars. And over the last few months, that basically meant digital assistants. You announced Alexa just a few weeks ago. Well, you announced it a year ago, but it's been out now. And why is that? Why this focus on digital assistants?
We believe there is, first of all, a new way of interacting with digital service coming up. It's a paradigm shift. But in addition, to integrate third-party assistants also means for us to have access to a huge amount of so-called skills and opening up basically ecosystems to our customers, which they would not have access to otherwise in the car.
It's not often that we hear car companies talk about software ecosystems. It's a bit of a shift.
Yeah, actually, yeah. I think software is one of the main investment areas in our company, whether it's for connectivity, connected car, digital services, but also in the classic IT, and obviously for autonomous driving, it becomes very, very important.
Absolutely. Well, you've shown Alexa. You're probably going to do Cortana, I think. I know you're not the biggest fan of Google Assistant, but we can talk about that another time. Today you've got something new for us.
We have actually connected Google Assistants in the home, so things change over time.
Okay. 2 years ago when I talked to him, he was not a big fan of Android Auto, so it's a different story.
Right.
But yeah, today you've got something new that you want to show us. So
yeah.
What is that?
Yeah. So I'm happy to be here today, so good morning, everybody. I think it's really something big for us as a company and hopefully for our customers as well. So thanks, Frederick, for introducing me. And before really launching, what we have planned is basically to give you some background information. So BMW envisioned the connected car future already years ago, and we started connecting our vehicles way before this became one of the really hot topics in the tech industry. I started around 4 years ago with the BMW Group, and we are focusing basically on building consumer-centric, customer-centric digital services. They allow us, using connectivity, to create really new experiences to differentiate our cars. Digital experiences become more and more a purchase driver for our vehicles. And we also build a new business around that. And above all, we also digitally connect the BMW Group customers and the BMW Group. And this is, as you know, really essential for moving forward on the digital transformation we are on. Understanding and digitally interacting with our customers is of utmost importance. We can develop better products, flexibly adjust to customer needs, and provide a better experience. And so we are connecting basically the digital life of our customers with our cars and bringing experiences they are used to on their smartphones or other digital devices seamlessly into our BMW ecosystem. Our fleet is already today basically 100% connected. And if you think about the user base we are talking about, we are close to 4 million customers who have signed up for our popular BMW connected experiences over the last 8 quarters. And this year we also made a major rehaul of our operating system in the car. We call it Operating System 7.0, and it's a major update of our in-car software platform. This in-car software platform allows now really to provide contextual digital experiences. It's a modern, sleek design, and we can personalize our experiences in a much different way than before. So it's tailored to address individual customer needs. But this was the background. Today, we want to celebrate something else, something new, and for us it's a true world premiere. Hey BMW, who are you?
I am your personal assistant. I am here for you. Would you like to learn more about me? I can control various functions for you.
So these were the first public words spoken by BMW's intelligent personal assistant. And BMW's intelligent assistant will revolutionize what we call the ultimate driving machine and the way you interact with it. Pre-order of our personal assistants will begin with a new 3 Series in 2 months. And starting in March 2019, our customers will experience the first set of features. With this, they will be part of a journey of intelligent, voice-centric, and customer-oriented multimodal in-car experiences. They will be part of that journey. And BMW's personal assistant gets to know you over time with each of your voice commands and by using your car. It gets better every single day. So what is it all about? First of all, it's a much more natural and easier way to interact with your BMW and related digital experiences. It's not about voice commands. Our personal assistant is intelligent and continuously learns and grows. We see our personal assistant as a digital character who lives side by side with you and who can talk to you. And by the way, our personal assistant lives in the cloud using the latest and scalable technology. Just imagine him being a real expert about your car who knows nearly everything about it. He can control it for you and he can teach you how to best make use of it. If something requires your attention, he will let you know. So he's proactive. He's also your assistant and supports you to make the most out of your time in the car while on the go. It's the perfect companion who helps you to be productive or to be entertained. But there's one more topic. Our personal assistant is also compatible and can connect to existing BMW concierge services. but also to third-party assistants such as Amazon's Alexa. It basically gives you access to your BMW ecosystem, but also to the fast-growing ecosystems of voice assistants. Important is that also its functionality will continuously grow. New functions and features will be available for our customers via remote software upgrade without a stop at the dealership. The possibilities are just endless if you think about innovation, and this is just the beginning of a journey which is super exciting and where we want to take our customers with us. Our personal assistant is a new way to interact with your car. It's a digital personality you can chat with and even give it its own name. For instance, Charlie. Hey Charlie, what are your favorite colors?
Blue and white. I am from Bavaria.
Well, besides some fun of chit-chatting and the personalization, let's take a look what else he can do for you. Your personal assistant is a car expert and a coach for you that is always with you. If you need his support, just ask him. Hey BMW, how are you today?
Fine, thanks for asking. I do have one thing, though, a new service alert. Do you want to hear more?
Oh, yes. And do you know what? I can even ask him to help me arrange a dealer appointment. So, our personal assistant knows helpful features, and in the future he can also proactively introduce you to relevant features and functionalities. Let me give you an example. When you're driving outside the city at night, the personal assistant could suggest to you the safety-enhancing BMW High Beam Assist, and you can immediately order it through our in-car store. He also knows you. He can control many things in your BMW because we know the customer's routines and habits. Imagine you are on your way home after you have had a stressful day. Just say, hey BMW, I'm tired. And he will start your personal relaxation program playing your preferred music. He will adjust the interior settings depending on your car's capabilities, such as seat heating or your favorite ambient light. And our personal assistant knows your car. He will take care of your car while it is waiting for you in a parking spot, for example. He will reach out to you through BMW Connected when you forgot to close the windows or when your theft alarm goes off. So he almost knows everything. The personal assistant knows you, understands your needs, and is your BMW expert. He can control many features and teaches you what you need to know. All this makes the most out of your driving experience with a BMW. But in addition to the car expert, he's also your perfect co-driver to assist you when needed. Hey BMW, drive me home.
Let's go. Home is the best place anyway.
Apart from taking you home, he will also find you spots along the route. But let me share personal experience as a father of a 3-year-old daughter. When we are on a long drive and Carla, my little girl, gets hungry, I can ask the personal assistant to find her favorite restaurant along the route. He will make suggestions, I select, and he will take me there. But he will also support me during my business day. On my way, he knows that I have a call with Tom, scheduled for 9 a.m. Once I've confirmed, he will automatically dial up a Skype call. So let's try how that would look like. Hi, Tom.
Hey, Dieter. How are things?
Oh, pretty well, pretty good. Actually, I'm at TechCrunch Disrupt, live on stage talking about our brand new personal assistant. By the way, what's your favorite feature?
First of all, I really like that I can simply talk to get a lot of things done while driving. And also, it's super exciting that the BMW personal assistant will get frequent updates over the air with new capabilities. Well, and then of course I'm very much looking forward to the future, to some of the exciting things we plan. For instance, when you can not only search a restaurant, but you are able to right away book a table.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
No problem. See you later.
So this is just the beginning of an exciting journey. In order to incorporate third-party ecosystems, we made sure that the personal assistant is also compatible with your favorite digital assistant at home. And we integrate Amazon's Alexa to start with, and be sure more to come. Stay tuned. Talking about partners, also very important for us is obviously the technology around it. We are using Microsoft's state-of-the-art Azure Cloud Platform, their cognitive services, and their conversational platform. And we incorporate basically artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities to create our own personal assistant.
The BMW Intelligent Personal Assistant. Just talk to him. You can even give him his own name. Hey BMW, change the activation word. And the journey begins. He's always by your side and will always learn new things. Just try out the following. Hey BMW, I'm cold. Whenever you have a question about your vehicle, whenever you need help, hey BMW, how do I fit the child seat? There's so much to do. Every minute is valuable. He creates room for the things that you love. Time to be free. Time for what is really important. Sheer driving pleasure. Hey BMW, drive us home. Let's go.
So if you have any further questions during the day, feel free to ask. I will be around today. And otherwise, I think we are going to have a few questions and answers right now.
I have a few questions for you.
Yeah, I guess.
Thank you, Dieter.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. See you soon.
You can applaud for that, yeah. So, thank you, Dieter. Voice control is nothing new. You know, my old 2004 car could listen to me. It was really crappy, but it was able to understand a few things. Why do this now? What's different?
So for us, modern technology allows now real natural language understanding, which is a totally different game than just having pure voice commands, like sending a destination to a navigation system. So it's much more natural interaction. And that fits really well with our approach of providing consumer-centric services, because we believe it really will drive engagement in the car. And we better understand what our customers want and need, and that allows us to develop better products at the end of the day.
Why are you building your own assistant, though?
So I think our assistant needs to have the capability to operate the car at the end of the day. And that is why we believe for safety, data integrity reasons, etc., we need to manage that customer interface. But overall, we have a two-pronged approach, as I have presented. So basically, for BMW ecosystem-related topics, plus the car operation, we have basically our technology stack and our personal assistant. But then we are also able to dispatch, depending on the type of question, to third-party assistants, which gives you access to your skills you're used to at home, and give you the full range of capabilities.
There's still a bit of overlap between the two, though, right? I can say, hey, Charlie, what's the weather? But I can also say, Alexa, what's the weather? Or, you know,
yeah. I mean, obviously, we do that not the car way, but the internet way, which means we are providing a first set of experiences starting November, basically, with pre-ordering. But the important thing is that our system lives and continuously improves. And obviously, there's a transition period as well, where basically installed onboard experiences and then the offboard experiences, so the cloud experiences, they will coexist. And then over time, depending on usage, etc., we will need to make the call how to curate that in the best possible way. So there will be a transition period till you go to cloud only potentially.
Are you saying that part of the assistant now runs in the car? The BMW assistant runs in the car?
Yes. There is also natural language understanding capabilities on board in the car. But obviously, we are dispatching also to the cloud for our own activities. And we need to maintain a certain capability in the car because, I mean, there is, even in today's world, situations where you don't have full connectivity.
Mm-hmm. What's the business use? What's the business case here for you? Because this must have cost a bit of money and some resources to build your own assistant. I mean, Google and Amazon are doing that, and they're big.
Yeah, obviously there's different ideas behind. The first one is we think it's differentiation element, and you need to provide something like that in a premium environment. So that's a must at the end of the day to sell and differentiate your cars later on. Second thing is it allows us really to drive consumer engagement and build our customer base, our user base, and directly engage with them. And then obviously we have a pure financial business case behind as well. So it's part of a bigger infotainment package which we're selling, and there's a three-pronged approach. And it's part of the professional package where you have the IPA functionality. And then you can, and that's the new way we are also going to drive our business, then you can, through the in-car or the web store, then basically activate additional functional packages over the time.
One day the car industry will get away from all those packages and I don't need the leather to use my Alexa. But
at least it will be simpler.
Absolutely. For this, you've decided to, well, actually, let me go back there. You mentioned that this is a way to differentiate your BMW from other car manufacturers. What makes this assistant specifically BMW? How does it represent the brand?
So we will strongly invest going forward in the language understanding, a BMW typical voice. I mean, it's a brand element. Like the interior of the design will be much more important going forward, how you interact within the car. So this is really important, and then hopefully we can also differentiate through functionality, through learning mechanisms, through the best integration of third-party assistants. I think there's numerous ways, and we are just at the beginning of that journey.
Is there a way in which the assistant reacts to you that's specifically BMW, that just, you know...
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like the third-party assistants. I mean, the way you interact with them becomes much more natural. There will be emotional reactions. And one thing we are already having under development is if somebody asks about a red light in the dashboard, I mean, the way you ask about it will probably trigger different reaction. I mean, whether it's stressed out, then you will be probably linked to the concierge service and to a real human being. Or if it's a real informative question, I mean, you will get another tonality. So these are the things which make basically the interaction much nicer over time.
So those poor concierge people, the actual humans, they will only deal with stressed out BMW drivers.
Yeah, or with very special requests. I mean, we can't answer in a digital way. So
now, I've noticed that you talked about the assistant as a he, but the voice was kind of female. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, we are not bipolar, so it's just, I mean, it comes from the German language. I mean, we call it der Assistent, and that's why it's basically the he. But in many other languages, I mean, it's a female voice, and it's your personal assistant. That's how we want to call it.
Fair enough. Last question. You're working with Microsoft?
Yep.
Why Microsoft? Why not go with Amazon or Google?
So we have a dual approach here, and we are maintaining that approach. So like you see with the Alexa integration, we have a close cooperation with Amazon, but we basically decided a few years back on Microsoft Azure platform, where we built on our cloud services, Open Mobility Cloud platform on. And so it's a natural way to expand basically our platform through the personal assistant functionality and leveraging basically Microsoft's technology in artificial intelligence, machine learning, dialogue management, and all these things.
All right. Well, Charlie said home is the best place anyway. So
That's true.
that's where we're going because our time is up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, I've had my coffee, so I'm like ready now. Let's do it. Again, my coworkers. I appreciate their support. Okay, so we are going to switch gears. Okay, yes, we are very pleased to have for the very first time Sequoia's global co-managing director. Please welcome to the stage Doug Leone and our moderator, Connie Loizos.
Is my mic working? Oh, yeah. Everyone knows Sequoia Capital is a giant in the United States, but fewer of you may know that more than 50% of every dollar that Sequoia now returns to its investors comes from an overseas strategy and from China primarily. And today we have the sort of one of the masterminds of that global strategy with us, Doug Leone. Thank you so much for coming.
It's a pleasure to be here. And one small thing, it's 50% of the money we invest, not 50% of the money we return to the investors.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
So most of your returns are still coming from the U.S.?
A great majority comes from the U.S., but China's coming up very, very, very fast.
Okay, well, important distinction. Well, so the thing is, you were not the only ones to go into China. You headed there in 2005. A lot of other venture firms went as well, but they got out. You stayed. How did it work so well? And I guess at what point did you know that it was working?
Well, you know, the first thing to keep in mind in business is the thing that appears really risky. If you think things through, it's the least risky of them all. And one of the insights we had was that if we went to China and we made the decisions from the US, we were certainly going to fail. And so what we decided to do is look for local teams and then cut a deal with them that says, you've got to make all the decisions. Imagine a local team being told that. It was the exact opposite of what everybody else was saying. And the reason we did that and the reason we went to China is because we sensed that by 2025, it was going to be a globalized world. And so we looked for places that we thought were going to grow very rapidly and were going to be very large. So we didn't go to Europe because it was large but not growing. We didn't go to Vietnam because it was growing but not large. So we went to China first, then India, then Southeast Asia.
And, you know, this has sort of been a topic of conversation throughout the conference. I talked with some Silicon Valley investors about this yesterday. This economist cover story saying Silicon Valley is sort of on the wane, other parts are rising. Do you agree that that's the case?
Well, look, it's become very expensive to recruit in Silicon Valley. Now, we can recruit engineers in Silicon Valley, and this is how I recruit engineers in Silicon Valley. I tell an engineer, I said, oh, it's us or Google. It's little company A or Google. And I tell them, you know, it's great working for Google. The sun always shines on the campus. The bicycles are great colors. You can take 9 months off when you've got a baby. But there's not a thing you can do in your life that's going to change the price of that stock by a 1/16 of an inch. You come to our little company, the food stinks. It rains maybe in our company, but you have an idea by 10 o'clock, and it's going to be implemented by 11, and you can make or break a company. That gets you to recruit. But at the end of the day, if someone is willing to pay $1 million and you're willing to pay $200,000, or startups don't usually go like this. They're not rocket ships from day one. They go through bumps. All your engineers are vulnerable. And so where 3 or 4 years ago, we told companies, recruit your engineering department in Silicon Valley. Now we say, start in Silicon Valley, have core engineering, but move the balance of engineering someplace around the globe.
In terms of, you know, the differences maybe in founders, you know, in Silicon Valley versus China. Can you sort of tell us a little bit, knowing both markets as well as you do, what are some of the biggest differences?
Well, first I want to tell you how they're the same. They both dream about changing the world. That's how they're similar. They want to be the dent makers. It's not about money. It's about building a product that people will want. China is a little bit different, that the generation in China now is the first generation that has an opportunity. In the US, it's the third generation that has an opportunity. And if you just think back to Eurologic, if it's the first generation, you should assume that their edge is a little sharper. Because you know the edge tends to dilute through the years. I tell my kids, for example, I can't give you what I had, great competitive advantage, desperation, because that clears your mind. And so the Chinese founders, in some ways, are a little more desperate. And you see it in the crazy work ethic that I'm not endorsing, nor condoning, nor disapproving of. But I've had dinner in China until 10 p.m., and people go to work after 10 p.m. And we don't see that in the U.S. I'm not saying the U.S. founders ought to do that, but those are the difference. They're similar in character, they're similar in dreams, they're similar in how they want to change the world, they're ultra-driven, and the Chinese founders have a half other gear because I think they're a little more desperate.
So you're I think, referring to a sort of famous Financial Times piece this year that suggested that China has a growing edge. Founders there, sleep in their offices. They don't see their families as much. You're not endorsing that. You're not saying that U.S. founders
I'm
need to emulate
absolutely
that
not
model.
endorsing that. On the same way that I'm not endorsing true happy balance, because when you start a company, you have to do something that other people are not willing to do. It's a different way to live. And I think we should just accept it, we should learn from it, and we should decide in the U.S. what we want to do. But by no means stamp of approval, nor am I going against it. I'm just pointing out what the differences are.
So again, knowing both markets, and you even have a sort of a cross-border fund, I think, that you raised maybe like a year and a half ago, that helps American investors head into China. Is that correct?
It helps American companies that want to enter a very difficult Chinese market where the laws are opaque, the market is not fully open, enter China. And we've done it with LinkedIn, we've done it with Evernote, we've done it with Airbnb, and we have a fund out of the funds we have in China. We have venture, growth, seed, but we also have a cross-border fund. Because at some point, when a company gets large enough, they have global aspirations.
So, I mean, on the one hand, I think if anybody can figure it out, it's Sequoia. But on the other hand, I think there's this growing feeling that it doesn't really make sense for American companies to try to go to China. Airbnb has struggled. LinkedIn has made it, but it's made a lot of concessions. Its members can't join certain groups. It's agreed to sort of censor content. It's sold part of its company to local officials. We had an investor here, Kai-Fu Lee, who I'm sure you know, the AI expert, and he was also sort of underscoring that, to your point, Chinese founders are, I think he called them gladiators in their sort of own coliseum, and he said it's not sort of a government issue, it's a competitive issue, a competitiveness issue, and he seemed to think it's not sort of workable.
Well, look, it all depends if you want to go where the puck is or where the puck is going to be. And it's our belief that 4 or 5 years from now, things are going to be different. Markets are going to be more open. Yes, we're seeing a little bit of a trade war right now, but there's a lot of pressure in China to open markets if they want to be part of the global community. And so it's our view that China is going to be more open through time.
Can we talk about the trade war? How is that impacting your business? I mean, every week, I think Trump was going to sort of announce more billions of dollars of tariffs this week. China's responding. No negotiations planned.
It really hasn't affected us yet here in the U.S. It's affected China more. I can tell you that the mood in China in 2018 is a lot different than the mood in China in 2016. China, and we've been in China since 2005, had never seen a market downturn, a prolonged downturn. And one of the reasons that founders want to go, spend, because all they've seen is up and to the right. Well, I can tell you the mood is a little bit different in China. So while I don't think it's affected us very much in the U.S., it's affected China, and you see it in the mood change.
Tell me a little bit about your strategy there, and I guess how it works. For example, can you invest in a company that has sort of a direct counterpart in the U.S., or is that a conflict of interest? I mean, given that these are to
No, we have
market?
very, very local funds, and then decisions are made locally.
Okay.
And so it used to be 5, 6 years ago that Chinese investments were look-alike companies to U.S. companies. Well, I can tell you that's not the case anymore. Whether it's AI or healthcare, biotech, or even mobile, they're very different business models. They're very local Chinese business model. If you look at companies like Toutiao, you may or may not have heard of them. It's a video company. We do not have the similar company here in the U.S. And when I attend a weekly meeting every Thursday in China where we review all the companies. It used to be that I had a lot to say because I've seen those businesses in China and India. Now I'm learning as much as I'm providing input because they're very Chinese type of businesses.
What's interesting, too, is so many of them are trying to go public here in the U.S. You have a couple, probably more than a couple, but Sina, a fintech company that's filed to go public here, NIO, an electric car company. Why are they doing that?
Well, look, it's a global market. Whenever we have a company, we decide whether is it going to be well received by U.S. investors. U.S. investors want to see growth. Is it more received by the A-share market? The A-share market doesn't want to see growth. They want to see profitability. A terrific A-share IPO is a company growing from 30 million to 40 million to 50 million, 20% EBITDA. That company would not be a U.S. IPO or the Hong Kong market. And so what we try to do is aim the companies where we think they'll be receptive public market investors. But the other thing to keep in mind is the IPO is just a moment in time. It's a day in a company's life. And so what we also think about is where are the best long-term shareholders for this company that's going to have many, many years after the IPO?
I guess, do you see that changing over time? I know one sort of issue is it sort of takes much longer to kind of queue up a company to go public there versus here. I'm just wondering, I mean, I think we're lucky that we have so many offerings here. Do you see a shift?
Well, in the U.S., it's purely a market-driven type of environment. In China, the IPO licenses are managed by the government, and they're managed by the government in a way so there's a balance of supply and demand. The Chinese government, they don't want to see an IPO that goes up and comes down. If it comes down, it means that Chinese retail investors are losing money. And so getting that license is very difficult. And if you get that license, in some ways, that license alone is worth $500 million to $1 billion because that's going to be the starting value of your company. So a very different market. In the Chinese market, much more managed, much more to please local investors. In the U.S., purely Darwinistic. Is there interest from local investors? And if there is, they'll go public. But there is no government supervisory agency in the U.S. that says, you're now blessed.
Right. Obviously, the regulatory environment is very different in both countries. One thing that I wish I understood better, but is this new national charter that Chinese regulators announced earlier this year that I understand is sort of around personal information that's sort of more onerous than GDPR in the EU. I'm wondering how that impacts.
Look, it is. I wish the charter was so clear. I wish the laws were so clear. China is a very tough way to do business. It's a very tough place to go and do business. You not only have national laws that are not clear, you have provinces that have their own laws. And so you've got to navigate, and you always have to stay very, very clear on making sure you don't upset the government. You know, sometimes you get it wrong and you get spanked and you get shut down for a day or 2 or 3. And you have to have the right connections. The connections don't help you in anything but going to talk to an official and make sure he or she understands that you're going to make the changes that they want done. So the message really is it's a tough place and you've got to be ultra sensitive to not upsetting the government, especially in the last 24 months as the president has really just consolidated his power.
Right. I wanted to talk to you, too, about, you know, a big story for Sequoia this year, whether or not you wanted it to be, was just your fundraising efforts. I understand that they're pretty much at a close at this point. You've raised 6 funds in, you know, the last 18, 24 months, and they're pretty much closed.
Well, look, it sounds like we raised a lot of funds. We raised U.S. seed, U.S. venture, U.S. growth.
But
It's coincidental that they all ran out of money at the same time.
But
We
it's
also
a lot
raised-
of money is the point, too.
Yeah, we also raised China seed, but they're all very small. China seed, U.S. seed, 150, 180 million dollars. Venture business hasn't changed much. Growth business hasn't changed much. The thing that's new is that we raised a large latest stage fund called Global Growth. And the reason we raised it is the large companies want to stay private longer. They want to fight the global fight as private companies, not as public companies. And they require a lot more money in the private markets. In fact, we've seen the valuations in the private markets, whether it's Uber at 40, 50 billion, or whether it's Airbnb at 30 billion, those would be public market valuation. For those of you that are younger than 35, 40 years of age, Cisco's system went public at 300 million pre. Just keep that in mind. And now we're raising money at 30 billion pre in the private markets. So what we wanted to do is have a pool of capital so our founders knew they could have friendly capital to support them through the journey, through the IPO and post the IPO. Set quite in a different way, there are investors that are now approaching our company, say, either you take $1 billion from us or we'll invest in your nearest competitor. And we wanted to make sure that Sequoia companies, that Sequoia partner companies, didn't face that stick-up. We wanted to make sure they had an option and that they had friendly capital around. And so we raised an $8 billion fund. That's global in nature. It backs up the U.S. companies, the Chinese company, and the India companies, just to serve the founders throughout their whole journey. As soon as I say that, I also want to remind everybody that we do seed investments. Airbnb, Dropbox, Stripe, Nubank, and Action IQ. We have a very, very active seed fund where we want to be the very first capital that a terrific debt maker founder goes and raises. So we can be there from day one. We have very small teams in the US and China and India. We have very small teams, but we have the capital that's available to support a founder through the journey.
Which is amazing that you can keep your eye on the ball, and I know that you do, but you didn't mention by name SoftBank.
I did not.
No.
Yes.
But SoftBank is obviously investing a $93 billion fund. Its CEO, Masayoshi Son, has said to expect more of these. It changes the playing field a bit. Do you think SoftBank knows what it's doing?
Look, Masa, very smart man, and I've sat down with Masa a number of times. He read in the press that Sequoia is against SoftBank. We read SoftBank is against Sequoia. None of that is true. They have $100 billion. We have co-invested with Masa in a number of companies. We've competed with Masa in a number of companies. We've co-invested without them. They co-invested without us. To us, it's important, though, that founders have an option. And so one thing is for sure, if you've got a player with $100 billion, prices are going to go up all throughout. And our job as investors is to make sure that we pick them right. It's no more complicated than that.
Were you losing deals to SoftBank before?
No, because keep in mind that our big growth fund, the one you were talking about, is aimed at our own companies. It's aimed on companies in which we're at every relationship.
Right.
And so I'll be very clear. We have never lost a single company in this large fund to anybody because we have a pre-existing relationship. Having said that, we're not going to get a discount on price. We have to pay the market price. But where we want to invest, we've had a 7-year relationship. We've served on that boards for 7 years. We've helped that founders out of a few pickles. We've helped recruit some VPs. So we typically don't lose. And Masa is very welcome in some of those deals, especially those that require large amounts of cash.
How big a check are you willing to write from that new fund?
Look, we theoretically could write $1 billion size, but $1 billion, I don't have a pacemaker in my heart yet. So I'd rather not go to $1 billion. We have written $500 million in a single. We have written $400 million in a single company. 400 is the largest check we've written.
Who received that check?
I'd rather not say. It's happened twice.
Here in the U.S. or in China?
I'd rather not say.
Doug, we're running out of time. I know that you're sort of an inspiration to a lot of the founders in the audience because you are an immigrant. Your family came from Italy when you were young, and nothing was handed to you. Of course, today you are, on the Forbes list of billionaires. What would your advice be to founders in the audience?
To start a company, if you have a burning need, if you can't go to sleep at night because you want to do something, if you happen to have some domain expertise, if you happen to be a customer. You know, so many of our great companies were founded where the founder was the customer. What the founder didn't know, though, is that he or she was the proxy for the next billion people. The Zappos founders couldn't find a pair of shoes. The Airbnb founders, they needed some extra money. The Yahoo founders couldn't find anything on the internet. The list goes on and on and on. Do not start a company because you're a little bored and you think it's cool to start a company and you're going to talk to a few customers to see what problems they have, because the customers cannot tell you the problems they have 3 steps down. They can only tell you the problems right in front of them. But if you've got that burning need, go do it, and go do it very smart. Protect your equity like gold. Choose your partners very carefully. Do not listen to these things. Raise as much money as you can. No, raise as little money as you can early on, because your company has no value. Raise a little money to get to the next step, then raise a little more money. At some point, you're going to be awash with cash. That's when you want to raise a lot of capital. Be shrewd. Don't listen to conventional type wisdom out there, and use your noodle. Listen to common sense and choose your partners extremely carefully. One more thing, choose your co-founders very carefully. We see a lot of founders that are kumbaya, 3 of us, we split it 3 ways, and 3 months into the company, they realize one person is doing 80% of the work. Figure that out up front. Have the real tough conversation with your co-founders. Do something fair and reasonable so that you 2 or 3 can work together for the next 10 years.
Doug, thank you so much for coming. You have to come back again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure.
Thank you, guys. How are we feeling? Okay, whatever. I'm really, really excited about our next guest. I've been covering the dating space for a really long time, and the growth of this company is just insane. And the story behind this founder is even more fascinating. So with that, I'm going to bring her on out. Please welcome to the stage Bumble founder and CEO Whitney Wolfe Herd and your moderator Fitz Tepper. Warm welcome, please.
How are you?
I am great. How are you?
Good. I'm so pumped to be in SF. Neither of us. We're in New York and Austin, Texas.
I know, that's
This
right.
is like the land of magical startups and scooters.
And sourdough bread.
And sourdough bread. So it's been a wild year. In the last year, Bumble has turned from a popular dating app to a cultural phenomenon, and you guys are just kind of firing on all cylinders right now. But I want to start with an episode of Successful Founders. They're just like us. So who in the audience has a startup that was started from their apartment office, anything like that? So you guys just grew to 100 employees on day 1, right, and moved into your big offices?
Yep, day 1, that was exactly how it went. No, it was crazy. So we started as a really small team, and we thought we had made it big because we were moving into an apartment. It was my part-time living place. That was also our work-from-home Bumble headquarters.
In Austin.
In Austin. And there was 3 or 4 of us, and then it became 6 or 7 of us, and I thought we were a huge company. Then all of a sudden, we started growing a little bit more, and our conference room became the bathtub. And then our second conference room was the closet. And that was really the Bumble headquarters for the first couple of years. And then you came and saw our new office that we thought, we had really grown into a real proper headquarters, and now we're already, bursting from the seams. So that's great news, but it's all part of the journey.
Did you do a bathtub conference call?
Several, yes.
Several.
Yes.
Totally normal. Founders, bathtub conference calls.
Well, actually, the bathtub had the best reception in the entire office.
You guys would fight for it.
So we would put 3 or 4 people, sitting on this corner, sitting on that corner, standing, and everyone's hanging over trying to get on the conference call, and it would have this awful echo. And we'd be like, "We're so sorry, our new conference room's under construction. We're really in a bathtub." So.
That's so funny. I want to start by talking a bit about the Me Too movement, which kind of came to be almost a year ago. And Bumble's always kind of championed a women's first mentality, and that's how the app works. How did you guys kind of feel inside the office when the Me Too movement started to come to be?
I think the Me Too movement was incredibly emotional for a lot of the team members in an inspiring way. You know, when I started Bumble, we were really championing this new way of thinking about empowering women. And it was one of the first initiatives in the tech space from a consumer-facing product that put women in control, and B, truly built a real brand based on those values. And so seeing society kind of catch up and acknowledge that the empowerment of women and the equality of women and really standing up for the right thing, the fact that that became normalized and people were raising their hands was something we were so excited about. And, you know, it's something we had been waiting for a long time and, you know, fighting for. So it's a phenomenal tidal wave happening where women feel empowered to use their voice, and they're not scared, they're not ashamed. And so I would say that we're very excited about the momentum, and of course devastated as you hear all these horrible stories coming out, but we're really proud, and we stand with every woman that's come forward.
From like a strategic internal perspective, was there any discussion like how we're going to attack this, how we're going to embrace it, or was it just from day one, finally, like?
I think it was more the latter. I don't think there was a moment where we said, oh, should we change our merchandise? You know, this is who we are. We were never a company that felt like we needed to become on trend with some cultural movement. This is our authentic voice, and it's genuinely what I founded the company on in terms of values and ethics, and it was just more momentum behind us to keep pushing harder and further and to spread our wings even further.
But you did publicly align yourself kind of with the movement as a company, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Not all tech companies have, and maybe I would say not many tech companies have. Do you think Bumble's a pretty closely held company? There are only a few major shareholders. You're one of them. Badoo is one of them. Do you think that made it easier to come out and publicly embrace the movement, knowing that you didn't have a lot of shareholders to be accountable to and people on the cap table?
I think if you look at Bumble from day one, Bumble has always taken firm decisions based on our values. And so this was one of those moments where it was a no-brainer. It wasn't sitting around a board table saying, well, how is this going to affect our bottom line? Quite frankly, that's not something I'm concerned about. I care about our users. I care about changing the dynamics, and our team cares about doing it our own way, a way that we truly believe will move the needle. And if that compromises the bottom line temporarily, that's something we're willing to embrace.
Do you think it did affect the bottom line, or did it help the bottom line?
No, I think that's why a lot of people have never done anything about it beforehand, because they were afraid it would. But in reality, our company is thriving. We're a profitable business in less than 4 years. We're growing at an incredibly rapid rate. We were 22 million registered users this time last year. Now we're over 40 million. And we've taken some firm stances, and we have inadvertently alienated certain mindsets, and that's okay, because if you don't stand for something as a business, then you really have no future, in my personal opinion. And ultimately, the community that cares about what we're doing, they're there for something more than just a random product. And so we owe them to continue to make the right decisions for them and to push the needle. And you cannot create any type of change or any type of growth with making a few people uncomfortable.
And like specifically men on the platform, how have they reacted to this?
This has been one of the biggest questions since day one of Bumble. A lot of people, I remember when it was just an idea, and outside from my business partner and from our early team, I would go around the community kind of saying, I'm launching this dating app, but here's the caveat. We're going to empower women, and we're going to give them control, and women are going to make the first move. And they would kind of go entirely blank and go, why would you start a product where there's going to be no engagement? That makes no sense. So this misconception of men will hate this has kind of been ingrained in popular, opinion for a long time, but in fact, it's the opposite. So the more we empower the women on our platform, the safer the space becomes, the more enjoyable the space becomes, and the more evangelized the brand becomes, the more attractive it actually becomes to men. Because what people are doing on this platform is connecting. And if you alienate the women, and if you make the experience something that women aren't going to enjoy, why would men enjoy that? And so it's somewhat of a no-brainer.
You do some interesting things about highlighting bad behavior from men on the platform, almost like publicly kind of shaming them. Is that the way to put it? I guess tell me a bit about like the rationale behind that and how that works.
So we definitely don't ever want to shame anybody.
No, I didn't,
yeah,
that was a little
no, I know what you meant.
You know what I mean, though.
So,
and walk through, I guess, what that looks like.
Sure.
In blog
So
posts.
our intention is definitely to stay in line with our values, and our values are very simple: accountability, which is, in my opinion, one of the most important; kindness, equality, empowerment, and growth. And accountability is this really important, topic right now. And if you look at where all these other social platforms are, quite literally on Capitol Hill yesterday, talking about the need for accountability and almost apologizing. Whoops, here we are, almost a decade later. I don't know where we've been. I started out really wanting to reshape the internet to create an accountable society. How can we engineer a platform through product and brand to make people feel empowered to behave well and to be kind to one another? And so when we do get the bad behavior, we have to hold people accountable. And so that has come in the form of open letters, that has come in the form of banning people permanently, and it's something we're proud of. If you can't come to our space and behave well and treat people with kindness, which, by the way, is not asking much, then you don't have a right to be here. And again, many companies have been scared to own that because they don't want to lose a user. And we are taking the opposite approach and have always taken the opposite approach, not just after all of a sudden, these media companies are in the hot seat. This is who we are. It's what we've been doing.
Got it. What do you think Bumble would look like today if the Me Too movement didn't start a year ago?
Well, I think it would look like what it looked like a week before it started. I think we would be doing the exact same thing. We would be pushing further, harder, having a stronger voice, and we would definitely stand for the same things regardless of the cultural tailwinds. And we are just incredibly excited to see that more companies, more voices, and more communities are acknowledging the grave danger of a disempowered society when you're focused on women and how women are treated and how they're, held to these gender norms.
Got it. I want to move on and talk about product a bit. So within the last year, you launched Bumble Biz and Bumble BFF, which is a business networking tool and a friend networking tool. Why did you launch those features?
So we launched the features. We really try to always look at our user base. What are our users doing here? What do they want out of this experience? And something really interesting started happening very early on in the product, actually almost day one. We saw women hacking the product to use it to seek other social connections. And it was because they were protected behind this wall where they were in control. They were in their driver's seat. They were not getting inundated by strangers or by conversations or communications. Therefore, they could really shape what they were looking for from the experience. And so when we saw hundreds of thousands of profiles indicating newly married or in a relationship, husband or boyfriend just got a job in Chicago, I know no one here, I need a friend to go do yoga, or I want somebody to start a company with. We started paying attention to this in a real way, and we said, you know what, this is our moment. It's early enough. Our brand identity is not, cemented yet. Let's take this to the next level, and let's evolve and give our users what they're looking for, and let's be the premier product to connect you to people you don't know yet for anything you're looking for. And so that was our foray into that, and Bumble BFF and Bumble Biz were really the first directions of that. And so now it's a full-fledged social network in its own right, and people really use the product in a different way. And so the LTV of Bumble is significantly different than the other products on the market because there's inherent churn with a dating product. You do your job, you lose your user. But what we've seen now through thoughtful product integrations from our team is, you can hide dating mode. So if you're in a relationship, but you want to use Bumble to find a new girlfriend or a friend to go do something or a new business contact, you can simply deactivate the dating side, and we hold you accountable, back to our values, where it timestamps the day you hit dating mode. So there's accountability in your relationship. And so that's the beauty of this, is that you don't have to be exclusive to our product in one direction or another.
I imagine that there's still probably a significant group of people, men or women, who are not signing up to use those two modes because their boyfriend or girlfriend doesn't, or husband and wife doesn't want them using Bumble, period. And does that happen? How do you combat that? And was there ever talk of doing like 3 separate apps in the beginning?
There was never talk of doing 3 separate apps because we have such an engaged community that when we polled our community, a lot of them said they weren't even exclusively there for dating. They were open to opportunities, and that they feel the brand is something that allows them to be there for more. So if you think about products in relation to real physical places, Bumble is not just, a nightclub. Bumble is a coffee shop, or it also serves alcohol. If you want alcohol, we have food. So it's this warm, cozy, inviting environment where you're allowed to be yourself in any circumstance.
Do you hope that one day, when someone hears Bumble, they don't immediately think dating app?
I don't mind what people think when they think about Bumble, as long as they feel safe and that they feel Bumble stands for empowerment. I want Bumble to be, 5 years from now, the world's premier empowerment company across every vertical. And it shouldn't just be about connecting to these 3 exclusive verticals right now.
That's a good transition, because I want to talk about media. Being the foremost, empowerment movement company, you have to expand beyond not only dating, but beyond connections. So I guess you did announce some media efforts earlier this year, maybe surfacing some content in the app, maybe charging for it one day. Tell me about your plans there, and Bumble as a media company, how important is that to the long-term vision?
Sure. So it's all about not shifting away from connecting people, but going deeper into connecting people, being deeper in those connections. So if you're going to connect somebody for romantic purposes, let's give them content that will help them have better relationships. Let's help those relationships go deeper and be more evolved. And if they're looking for business connections, let's help them learn how to set up a business right from our product. Why would we want to connect you just to the person? We need to surround you from a 360 holistic perspective and really add value to support those connections. And so the future of Bumble Media is really vast. We've hired an incredible team. We hired a remarkable woman who had been with Forbes for several years, Claire O'Connor, and she's brilliant and is really building out the strategy with several other of our amazing team members. And I think you'll see a lot out of us in early 2019 from our media arm.
And do you think there'll be users one day who will only interact with Bumble Media and may not come into the app at all, and is that okay?
I think you'll see that in 2019, early 2020.
Sounds good. I want to talk about offline for a second. You've done some cool things with retail stores, retail presences in Soho, New York, and Los Angeles. You have not a retail, but you have a physical activation here. That's something that Silicon Valley startups kind of stay away from normally. I think they think retail and in-person is like a waste of time. Why have you guys dedicated so much effort to that?
So we don't really look at it from a financial model and say, oh, is this the best ROI or is this not? What's the best ROI of our brand, and how can we go deeper with our users, and how can we build community? So our users have shown us that they want to be a part of our brand in a deeper way, more than just using our product. How can they engage with us and our values and what we can offer them in the physical? And so we had pop-up hives, and in 2019, we are rolling out physical hives. The nitty-gritty of those I can't announce on stage, but there'll be something no one's seen in the space, and it won't be a model that you've seen outside of the space. It's going to be a very unique approach to this, but all going deeper into connections and really truly about bringing good people together, which is our tagline.
And will you try to monetize those, or it's okay if they're kind of a loss?
There is a deep monetization strategy built into that, but currently Bumble is a profitable business just on a subscription model. So 2019 will come the introduction of both advertising on the platform and then in the physical space.
Got it. Interesting. And kind of on that same online, offline topic, there's been a lot of conversation recently about social media, healthiness, unhealthiness, social media addiction. I know you guys have something to announce today about that, but I guess in that, kind of tell me your broader thoughts on social media addiction. Do you think Bumble kind of falls into that category?
Absolutely, and I would be, it would not be right of me to exclude Bumble and then try to hold everybody else accountable. So we take accountability, and we are responsible in part for this epidemic of social media obsession. And I think that this is the moment where we're seeing not only companies be held accountable for their behavior as, interacting with their users, but it's time to almost encourage our users to focus on themselves and mental health and take care of themselves and not feel trapped in this warp of a never-ending stream of social connection. And so today, we're very excited. First time anyone is hearing about this, we are introducing Snooze. Snooze is the first feature across the board from really any major social media platform. It's quite different to anything anyone else has done, where we let you snooze our product. You get to choose the amount of time you'd like to snooze for, which freezes everything and essentially sends an away message to any of your matches. And you get to indicate the time frame and the reason for being out. And so why are we doing this? We're doing this for a few reasons. Reason number one, we listen to our users. And a lot of our users have indicated that they feel overwhelmed in keeping up with these connections in the midst of their busy lives. And they wish that they could peacefully just take a break without offending or rejecting anyone. And so it came from that, and then data, obviously supports that. And then we really just looked at this piece at large of how social media affects one another and ourselves. And so, I personally have been off social media for almost 3 weeks now. I feel like a different person. And
that's why you're not liking my pictures.
That's why. I know. Please don't be offended. But no, but see, this interaction right here is so telling of this addiction to social media and the validation every single person these days is seeking from this digital acceptance of friends or people they don't even know. And it's actually wild. The amount of people I've spoken to in the last 3 weeks has shrunk down to just a handful of people, the people I see in my office, my family, my very closest friends who I'm constantly on the phone with. But it's been a really perplexing experience. I went through a withdrawal for the first 48 hours, genuinely, and I felt panicked, I felt anxious, I felt depressed, and then all of a sudden I started relearning how to be human again. And it's a really liberating feeling and something I hope everyone will try at some point.
So quickly before we move on, I think one of the reasons at least Facebook, Instagram, whatever, has been hesitant to put kind of a similar mode in is they're worried that people are going to wait 3 weeks, be refreshed, wow, I can't believe I feel better without this, and maybe not go back or not go back as much as they used to. Are you worried about that?
So we're a bit different than the other social media platforms. They keep you in touch with people you already know, and they let you essentially know people you don't know just through their photos. They don't really connect you to people you don't know yet. And Bumble comes back to the core of humanity. Everyone at some point or another, whether you're in a social media burnout or not, needs human connection. You need a friend. You're going to, at some point in your life, want to date, and you need business connections. And so regardless of the burnout or feeling refreshed, you still need connections. And that's what Bumble serves. It brings people together. And so we're really not worried about losing our users. We are actually excited about giving our users a refreshed experience and letting them take control over their experience.
Got it. I want to talk about the future a bit. After Facebook announced their foray into dating, you guys released a pretty interesting statement. You said, "We were thrilled when we saw the news. Our team has already reached out. Maybe we can work together in the future." And I think Tinder said, "Screw you, bring it on." Why did you guys kind of put out that statement?
So we love Facebook. We work with several people at Facebook across the board. Huge respect for Facebook, and obviously, how could you not respect the growth that they've achieved over the years? But, Facebook's the biggest dating app in the world. Let's just be honest. It always has been. And the fact that Facebook came out and said, we are actually going to use the word dating publicly, huge validation to us. I mean, that's the best thing that could happen to the dating space, maybe ever. And what is also worth noting is we're really not reliant on Facebook anymore. So this isn't a direct risk to us. When we released non-Facebook login, our registrations went up 40% virtually overnight. And that's very telling of who's coming to our product. Our product skews both younger and older at the same time. And people are coming and they're logging in with alternate logins. And so we don't feel at the whim of what they're going to do. We're actually excited to see what they do. And yeah, who knows? Maybe there is an opportunity for a partnership down the road.
Has kind of the drama that Facebook's gone through over the last few months, and even all big social platforms, changed the way you feel about ever partnering or working or being acquired by them or any of the other big networks?
Well, we're not spending our days really thinking about an acquisition. Genuinely, we're focused on growth and adding value to our users. How can we make the experience better? How can we evolve? How can we take this vision of global empowerment brand to the next level? And so, to be candid, I haven't spent too much time thinking about that. We're so busy just focused on taking our, our future to where we want to go.
Whether it would be Facebook or another larger tech company, what are kind of the list of like must-haves for you to either be willing to be acquired or do a significant kind of partnership with them?
I think values count. And it's so much in our DNA at this point of focusing on these values. And when we build a product feature or when we make a revenue move, it always has to check those value boxes. And so I would assume, again, I haven't given it too much thought. We're just not there yet. We're just in high growth mode. I would think it's very important to both myself and our team and our board that we find a partner that shares similar values. But that's for any good partnership in the world.
And as you've, again, you're not looking, but as you've kind of seen, I guess, how these companies operate, do you think being, I don't know if picky is the right word, but having that kind of clear-cut set of values that you want may make it harder and or impossible to ever merge or be acquired?
I don't think anything is impossible. Trust me, I've been very shocked in the last few years. Definitely nothing's impossible at this point. But, I don't know, we'll get there when we get there. I think that Bumble has several different exit opportunities in the future, but we'll never get to that point if we don't bring more value and grow more and spread our vision and our mission to the rest of the world. And so we're focused on global. We're going very global at the end of 2018 and 2019, and I think you'll see a lot of international growth out of us in the coming year and beyond.
Got it. Well, keep us updated.
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
All right. I think you guys know who's next, given the fact that we're close to standing room here. We use technology for a lot of things in this world, but very rarely do we pay really super close attention to using it for good and justice. But our next guest has dedicated her life to that. So with that, I'm going to bring her up on stage. Please give a warm welcome to Priscilla Chan and your moderator, Josh Constein.
Thanks so much for coming. So as you might know, we have someone very special here, someone who's part of a very special family with a very special member, Max, and her sister, August. You might also know their dad, but I don't really want to talk as much about him today. I really want to get to know a little bit more about you. I think we hear a lot about the dorm room, those early days at Harvard from Facebook, but what I want to hear a little bit more of is your background. So you were a doctor and a teacher, and you'd done a lot to try to help the world before the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. Was there a moment or an anecdote from those roles that you see as sort of your superhero origin story?
So I just think it's crazy that I'm here today. And the reason why just goes back so far. I grew up as children of Chinese Vietnamese refugees who came to this country with nothing, but the good luck of having been sponsored out of the refugee camps by the Catholic Church. And we arrived in Boston, where they had nothing but faith in the educational system and that things would be okay. I went through K through 12 in public school, where my only direction from my family was, work hard, you'll do well. And there wasn't much more detail after that. But I got lucky. I had teachers who took me under their wing and made sure that I knew what the SATs were, that I knew how to apply to college, that I had one mentor even go so far as to like force me to play tennis, even though I was horrible, because he was like, you need to be an athlete too. And I was like, I will never be an athlete. But all of that, I just thought that was part of growing up. The moment I realized that my life had become the fullest version of the American dream is when I showed up at Harvard that first day, and I realized that someone had reached down and pulled me out of the struggles that my family faced as being refugees, very working class, no college education. Someone, my mentors, had reached down and pulled me up, and I had showed up at Harvard where there were opportunities that I didn't even realize were possible the moment before I set foot on campus. And that's when I realized that I needed to do everything to make sure that I was reaching back and pulling up as many other kids as possible, because I knew there were so many more deserving children, and I got lucky. But that's led me down the path of first being an after-school teacher in a low-income housing project right next door to where I grew up, and then an elementary school teacher, and then a pediatrician here at San Francisco General Hospital. But each time I was just thought I needed to build one more skill set. I needed to do one more thing in order to help children, to pull them up so that they could see the opportunities that I've had available. And after 30 years, I came to the conclusion that you can only sort of try to break the rules so many times before you realize the whole system's broken. And that's the problem, why children don't have the opportunities they deserve. And right now we're just getting by with people doing extraordinary things to help kids get lucky.
So during those years when you were a teacher, I think you really saw the need not just for education, but for work in healthcare. And you guys have obviously made some significant donations towards that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But was there a moment during those times as a teacher where you realized that like healthcare was not where it needed to be?
Well, there's been a couple of kids that have really made a big impact on my viewpoint. When I was working in the after-school program, I was a kid. I was like 19 years old, and a adult in my eyes from one of my students' school came to see me and said, "Have you seen this student?" And I said, "No, I haven't. I figured she was out sick." She said, "I haven't seen this child in a couple days. I'd love your help in looking for her." And I said, no problem. I walked out into the housing projects after the after-school program that day, and I found her immediately, and she was in the playground, and her two front teeth were broken down the middle. And I thought, I had so many thoughts. One, I failed. How could I have not seen this? How could I have prevented it? Who hurt her? And has she gotten health care? Has she gotten the right dental care to prevent infection and treat pain? And that moment compelled me, like, I need more skills. To fight these problems, I need to get out there and build more skills. And so, at 22, I was like, I need to become a pediatrician. And I did that, and in my practice at San Francisco General, I saw the same kids, just this time in the clinic, and I always tried to ask, go the extra mile, like, how's school? How are things at home? Like, how can I help you access the resources you need to be successful? And then I failed again. I had another kid who was 8 years old, had missed 180 days of school. That is a full school year because of deep issues around domestic violence and miscommunication, where the school thought there was a health issue and the healthcare system, thought that there was a school issue. And this kid, who we ultimately tested and found to have normal intellectual abilities, didn't know his letters when he was 8 years old. So after failing and failing, those were the opportunities that showed me that we need to do something differently to make sure that the infrastructure is set up for children to be successful.
That's a really inspiring story, and thank you for telling us that. Big donors are giving the Giving Pledge, and I think we've seen a lot of the extraordinarily wealthy rally to try to address some of these problems. But meanwhile, we're also seeing a lot of the rank-and-file millionaires of the tech industry especially living relatively hedonistic lives and not necessarily giving as much. How do we get the rank-and-file rich involved in philanthropy to the same level that some people like you have?
I think the thing that I'm most excited about of what we're doing at the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative is giving in a way that is authentic to who we are and the skill sets that we have. And so we are trying to pair world-class engineering with grant-making, impact investment, building movements, policy. And the key to that is what's authentic to Mark and I. Mark's built a very successful technology company. We should bring that skill set to actually build an engineering team and orient those teams towards education, science, justice, and opportunity. I've been on the front lines as a practitioner, and I've seen sort of like what is possible when you reorient the system and break the rules of the current system. You can achieve incredible outcomes for patients, for students. And I think even the money part is incredibly important because we wouldn't be able to do that without the money. But I think where we have unique leverage is applying our skill sets as living in the philanthropy world as living donors and applying that in addition to the resources. And everyone can do that. And at CZI, I'm excited that we are building opportunities for engineers, designers, product managers to come and help design tools for the Human Cell Atlas, for our learning platform, for important issues in criminal justice reform. And I just encourage everyone to think deeply. It's not about money. And I think everyone in Silicon Valley has a very unique skill set that has brought tremendous advances in the consumer industry. But what if we oriented that towards important social issues as well? And it doesn't have to mean a full-time job. I had a call with someone who ran a SaaS company yesterday who's giving me great advice around how to actually build technology that can scale to many using an open source philosophy. And I think everyone in our community, in our industry, has the opportunity to give in a way that many don't have access to.
So I think you guys have done an incredible job of leading by example, though I do think we need some kind of change in cultural norms. I know that Mark had a Jewish upbringing, and the Talmud instructs Jews to donate at least 10% of their income. Do we need some kind of meme or new cultural norm that makes multimillionaires feel like you're a jerk if you give less than that?
I think a huge part of why we've stood up and said that we want to do that is we want to put our name out there and saying we're